Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I am Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at pitching for today, the 30th of March. It is Sunday. We do have a 10-game main slate on DraftKings. I believe it'd be somewhat similar on FanDuel. I have not looked yet. But like usual, this will be looking at DraftKings since that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play on FanDuel, I would cut my pitcher pool into a half or so, just because pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to get as extreme pitching wise, but also one pitcher versus two makes a big difference. But we will dig in similar to what I've done the last couple days. I'm going to add in one more tool that we look at here, our weather station over at DFS Army. We get an idea, thanks to our weatherman, about some of the positive and negative hitting situations based on wind, potential delays, etc. Couple interesting spots. Kansas City had been one of the warmest ones to begin the season. Now they are the coldest on the day, really taking away some of that hitting upside. Uh, Yankee Stadium, where we saw the ball just fly and fly and fly yesterday. Colder, second coldest game on the day. Winds blowing in. Not the greatest hitting environment, despite being weaker pitching. Just things to take into consideration. We're going to see that this Philly Washington game has pretty high game total, and that's despite a guy like Nola being on the mound. And you see why. It's warm, winds blowing out. Solid spot to attack with some bats. Another pitching spot, Taj Bradley against Colorado. Warmest on the day. Pretty great hitting environment. So we do have to take these things into consideration. But Cincinnati, a place we like to take hitters, winds blowing in. Good thing to think about throughout the day. But we're going to get into some of these lines and obviously look at some of the names because it is a pretty weak pitching day overall. The problem is some of these offenses have not woken up yet. Um, so, with that said, let's take a look at some of these lines and see if we can pinpoint somebody that might make a lot of sense for us. And scrolling down, I wish DeGrom was more of an option. He's just expensive, and I'm gonna guess he's gonna be held to 70 pitches or so, maybe even less. Um, Boston is striking out quite a bit. Obviously, most of that is Rafi Devers, but they have struck out a lot to begin the season. He is a minus 185 favorite, so those things play into it where I would like to use DeGrom, but we really need to find some definitive news on innings or pitch numbers at this point. Uh, Bailey Ober, somebody that stands out to me, minus 125 favorite. Pretty solid season last year for Minnesota. He was at his best on the road, which is obviously a nice thing to see with this matchup. K numbers were stronger at home, but we're still over a K per inning at home. Had a few double digit K games. Obviously, we don't really expect that coming opening day or his opening start. His first starter last year, he got absolutely destroyed. Then figured it out pretty quickly. So obviously something to take into consideration. So we're going to want to look at some of his props as we switch screens uh, in a second. But we're still just going to go over some of these opening lines. That 7.5 total in Kansas City obviously stands out. Walker the favorite. Bybee with more upside. Walker is just kind of a steady what he is type of a pitcher. And at 7,800, he makes sense. He made 3 starts against Cleveland last year, struck out 16 in 16 and a third innings. So he was solid. He just didn't pick up and win in any of those. which really lowers his points per game in those matchups. Bybee, like I talked about a little bit on for opening day, 22 Ks in 22 innings against Kansas City. He was 2-0 in 4 starts. He did allow some runs, 5 home runs in those starts, so some volatility. Um, Generally not a huge K guy. Um, did have a couple starts last year with double-digit strikeouts, but after that, kind of sat in the 6 to 7 range a lot of the season. Big one here, trying to decipher pitching in this game. Chanowitz hasn't been good. Davis Martin's not really all that good. Do we go back to pitching in the White Sox Angels game? I'm not so sure about that. I do think we could stick with pitching in this Pittsburgh Miami game. Hopefully, we find some props that make a lot of sense that push those two guys into play. Max Meyer, former top draft pick, dealt with some arm injuries, looks to be healthy. Haney, a guy that torments us because he can show 3, 4 inning stretches where he's just dominant and then he just falls apart. Uh, Game total of 8, juice on the under. So it's definitely a game environment that we want to consider. With the way the weather is in Cincinnati, I'm kind of interested here in Martinez and Ray. Ray's super volatile, but when he's on, he racks up fantasy points, and that's what we want. Nick Martinez is kind of steady. I might not get to Martinez in this game. I might just be willing to gamble with Ray, but we have a better pitching environment than normal in Cincinnati. Uh, Somebody that I'm going to love, Taj Bradley. Somebody that I just always use because he shows such elite upside, but then he just falls apart as well. Um, Colorado can be had. Bradley can strike out plenty. He is a minus 205 favorite, and as we remember, that is the highest on the slate. Big thing, obviously, 8 under 8 getting the juice. I think Taj Bradley is going to be one of my favorite pitchers on this particular slate. Probably going to stay away from pitching in this Baltimore Toronto game. There's been some offense. Shigano was pretty decent in spring trading. He's not some young Japanese pitcher. He's actually 35 years old, but good environment for hitting, so I probably won't get there. Now, this game here, Nola versus Parker, high game total, but Nola's on the mound. Washington has struck out 28 times in 2 games. I did look at that right before I started this, just because last year Washington didn't really strike out all that much. So it was interesting to see. So with that K upside going right now, I think Nola is going to be in play for us. It's just I don't know how overweight I'm going to end up because of the game total and the atmosphere for hitting. But and to Milwaukee and the Yankees, Stroman, I think, historically Stroman has started seasons out pretty strong. He tends to fade as teams see him more and more throughout the year. So I do have interest in him. I just don't know how much upside he has as far as strikeouts in this matchup, but definitely somebody I'm interested in. I'm not going to get to Savali because I just don't think he has strong enough stuff to deal with the Yankees lineup. But like I did mention, the weather in New York is right for pitching, as opposed to hitting like it was yesterday. Getting into some of these props, see if any of the numbers stand out as we go through. Uh, Stroman 3.5 Ks, that's a pretty low number. Like I mentioned, his K upside in this matchup not very strong, so he feels more like a throw into the pitching pool than somebody that I want to hurry up and jam in. Nola 5.5, but the under. Uh, Probably a decent K prop on this slate, to be honest, based on the pitching options we do have. So it's going to be perfectly fine. Bassett at 5.5, almost a coin flip. That's a little shocking to me. So now it kind of raises or piques my interest, I guess. Probably won't get there, but seeing his K prop as a guy that's not a huge K pitcher anymore, uh, as one of the higher ones on the slate, I do have to look into it a little bit. And maybe we do see a weaker Baltimore lineup, even though it's, game 3. But it is Sunday, and managers like to do weird things on Sundays. Todd Bradley, obviously, mentioned his K upside. Going to end up with the highest prop on the slate. Tied with DeGrom. Um, but makes a ton of sense. Feltner doesn't for me at all. We get to Robbie Ray. There's the K upside, slightly lower than Taj Bradley, projected at the under, so about 6Ks. Bradley maybe 7. Um, Big numbers when they're making their first start. Big difference. We get to Meyer and Haney, two guys that I do like, but it's shocking to see their K props. Basically state they're gonna pick up about 4Ks. Um, we're gonna have to dig into how many innings we might get out of them. We'll see the outs prop here in a minute, and that might give us some better ideas with those two guys. Yeah, as we see strikeouts in this Angels White Sox game, pretty low. So that kind of makes me not want to be all that interested, despite both teams not being very good. Waka, Bybee, both over 4.5. Waka a little higher, surprisingly, so kind of fits though with the way I was feeling with that game. Waka might be slightly better option, but his upside just is kind of limited. Bailey Ober at 4.5 seems a little low, but St. Louis probably not much of a strikeout squad overall, uh, but definitely worth being interested in. And then Degrom 6.5. Seeing the over at 6.5 makes me think that maybe we do see 5 innings out of Degrom. It'll be interesting to see what his uh, outs prop is here. Just kind of looking at the record a win, any numbers that stand out. Obviously, Nola plus 120, very strong number. Todd Bradley plus 135. This Bassett plus 165 really stands out based on some of the numbers we've seen the last couple days. There's no Robbie Ray number yet. Max Meyer plus 310. That's pretty high. Bybee plus 175, so he has better win odds than Waka. Um, Despite Waka, I guess, being favorited. Um, Over plus 180. See, DeGrom at plus 215. Now we take away, some of his win upside. Um, Kind of interesting to see those numbers. And then we get to the outs recorded. I really hope there's a DeGrom number to give us a kind of a baseline goal here. Nola projected 6 innings. Going to be a strong, safe option. Chris Bassett, 6 innings as well. That's kind of shocking. Taj Bradley over 5.5 innings, basically, uh, which is great to see because Bradley's going to be one of my favorite pitchers, probably one of the chalkier pitchers, too. Uh, Very interesting to see what ownership is on him. And as we see, yeah, we do not have a DeGrom outs prop at this point. So definitely something we want to dig into. You see Bybee at under 17.5, so he's probably not going to get 6 innings. Michael Walkout right around 16.5. Could get 6. Obviously, the extra couple innings, super important in this opening start. Gets us a few extra points, and we're trying to find that in our builds. But then we have a bunch of names that we just really don't have interest in. Um, and it makes it pretty simple to cut a pitching pool down quite a bit on this particular slate. But there we have the first look at the pitching options for this slate on Sunday. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I'll put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ for 10% off, or I believe we still have first pitch for 20% off, actually. So I would suggest using that one. And if you want to hit the comments with who you're thinking you're going to ride today, let me know. Let me know if we disagree on anything. I'm always up for learning and seeing what I missed. But as always, best of luck, everybody.